with a load of iron ore 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. That good ship and true was a bone to be chewed when the gales of November came early.
Hello, Kyle.
What up, what up?
I'm going to start with a question. Do you know what the Edmund Fitzgerald is?
The who?
The Edmund Fitzgerald.
I hate when you do this. It's just completely off script. Edmund Fitzgerald. No, I do not.
Okay, it was a cargo ship that sailed the Great Lakes in the 20th century until it tragically sank in the 1970s during a storm on Lake Superior. There's a song about it called The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald that I'm sure you've heard. Anyways,
okay.
I'm reading a book on it right now. It's called The Gales of November, which is like crazy timing given it's currently November. And like half of the content on my social media right now is about the Edmund Fitzgerald. I'm going to start sending you all of them.
Yeah.
But even crazier timing because there's no other way to describe the way I feel right now as a fan than going down with the ship.
Yep.
And I just kind of had to make that analogy, I guess, to start us off. I thought I'd try something new. I'm actually going to change the intro audio, this one from Van Halen, to that very song, just to kind of keep the listeners engaged. Mikal, how are you feeling, brother? It's a lot going on, dude.
A lot to take in since we last, filmed an episode. I mean, I'm in a place of mixed emotions. The UCLA football season's behind me, honestly, at this point. It's,
sure.
Hoping we're winning games and sort of moved on to ride or die with basketball at this point. But I mean, you got a whole nother thing on our hands at this point.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm here to talk about now.
Yeah. In case you missed it, I feel like it's the reason that probably 95% of you are tuning in this week. On Sunday, the morning after UCLA's loss to Nebraska, as if that game wasn't bad enough, it was reported by Bruin Report Online that UCLA was in the process of finalizing a deal that would relocate its home games from the Rose Bowl to SoFi Stadium immediately starting in 2026. We had heard rumblings in the 2 weeks leading up to that the Rose Bowl was filing a lawsuit, kind of like due to UCLA having these like secret talks with SoFi Stadium, but it was just that, it was just that there were talks. Yep. But now here we are basically waiting day to day to see what comes of this lawsuit and if it'll be enough to keep UCLA at the Rose Bowl. But from what I'm gathering, what I'm reading, it sounds like it's in all likelihood that the Bruins' time at the Rose Bowl is over. And I'm curious what your initial thoughts are before I speak my mind.
My initial reaction is that this sucks. We're both Pasadena guys. We both grew up going to the Rose Bowl, only less than 15 minutes from my house. So very easy to get to. I don't think there's a better setting in college football. I think a lot of fans across, the U.S. would say the same. Whether you've been to a UCLA football game or you've been to the Rose Bowl game, it's the same exact setting. Different product, obviously, on the field, but there just really isn't any place like the Rose Bowl. You got the tailgating that's very unique. You're out, on a golf course and, greenery surrounds you, the mountains surround you. So I think that initial reactions is, it's sad, but I'm also at a place where I do think that UCLA football, it's just time for a change in one way or another. I mean, we're just in a place right now where, you go back to the Foster hire. That really didn't excite anyone. And then we start,
No, it did not.
We start 0-4 this season and, all hell breaks loose. And if there's any time to do it, I feel like it's now, oddly enough. But I mean, the Rose Bowl is one of my favorite places, probably in the world. So, it's sad, but potentially necessary is the way I feel about this.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Right now, the only way I would describe my feelings towards this whole situation is just I'm pretty numb about it. And I don't know if that's either because it hasn't really set in yet and that I haven't processed it, or if it's honestly because the Rose Bowl that I grew up to love, I feel like that kind of died about 10 years ago for UCLA.
No
fans.
longer.
You know what I mean? Like going to games the last, let's call it 8 seasons. 2018 is kind of that linchpin year with the hiring of Chip Kelly. The end of that Mora burst that we had in the 2010s. I mean, even at UCLA's worst in the early 21st century with Durrell, Neuheisel, Mora, you were getting 65,000 a game, even when we were a 4-win team. In the last 7 or 8 years, going to games at the Rose Bowl in the stadium, like to watch the football game, has just kind of felt like an ugly reminder of like a cruel reminder of what used to be. And so when I found out that this was happening, obviously some shock and awe because just like you, man, Pasadena native, I grew up walking distance from the Rose Bowl for certain games. I still go to my parents and walk down. Like there was nothing more special about having your childhood team, like your team also playing like literally in your backyard. Like UCLA football games to me, man, it's like home.
Yeah,
it really is. And I remember like vividly as like a child, I remember thinking like, not as a child, but like in like high school and shit, I just kind of had like this weird thought. I'm like, what would ever happen if UCLA stopped playing at the Rose Bowl? Like that would be, it was like an apocalyptic idea to me about like, what if they ever built a stadium or just, I don't know, some act of God where UCLA no longer plays here. As a kid, I couldn't wrap my head around how I would even accept that. And obviously I'm a grown man now, and I learned that things do change and life goes on. But it is really, really sad that it's come to this. And I think a lot of people, back to my point of how like watching games in the stadium at the Rose Bowl for UCLA kind of died for me like 10 years ago. I think a lot of people who are most upset on like Twitter and shit are kind of conflating their feelings towards the Rose Bowl and playing there versus the tailgate scene. Right. And I think that's absolutely fair and like deserving because, dude, the tailgate situation has been our safety net and kind of the thing that's kept this fan base from, just kind of the bottom from falling out in the last decade. The phrase, we've never lost a tailgate, like that really does hold true for UCLA fans because that is the one kind of insurance policy that if you go to the Rose Bowl and you take the extra time to get there early, check out the scene or even host your own and get friends and family out there, it's just it makes it so worth getting out there and making the effort.
And it brings in casuals.
It brings in casuals. It makes people fans. That's what made me. I experienced the tailgating scene before I ever experienced. My first game was in 2005 versus Oregon State when my dad took me. And I remember, we first got there probably an hour and a half before kickoff, just walking around. And I was really little, but I just remember being like, I was seeing kids my age running around on the grass, throwing. It was I felt like I was in heaven. It just, it smelled like barbecue. Everyone was wearing the same shit. Everyone had blue on. It was such good vibes, and I just fell in love immediately. And I've got my opinions on SoFi. Some of them good, some of them bad, mostly bad. But it's something that just can't be replaced is that pregame atmosphere, and it's really going to be tough to see that go.
And the thing that surprises me the most is like this it came out of nowhere. We all, like you said, we saw the rumblings of, a lawsuit potentially being formed just a couple weeks ago. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, it's breaking news, breaking. This is a done deal. And the last game is versus Washington in 2 weeks. And that's the last time. If you can't go to that game, you'll never be able to go to Rose Bowl and see UCLA football again.
We don't even get a full season to say goodbye. It's like make your plans now to I know people that aren't big sports fans. It sounds like ridiculous to talk this way. It's like no one's dying. It's not like anything like genuinely that serious, but but it really kind of is though, because not as serious as someone dying.
No, it actually is.
But it's something that really does personally mean a lot to me and so many other people because it's just so many memories, so many years and traditions, and it sucks.
The thing that you go back to, and one of my first memories of actually going to the Rose Bowl that I can still remember today was the home game, I think in like 2007, maybe we had against Notre Dame, like some year like that.
That game sucked.
But that was one of my, vivid memories that I can still remember from when I was, a kid. And I think they suck too, and we lost like by like 3 touchdowns.
Notre Dame was winless.
Yeah,
They were like 0-6 with Jimmy Clausen. And we were playing the law firm. Mick Lloyd Bethel Thompson was our quarterback.
Yeah.
And we got smoked. But, I mean, I know what you're getting at.
But probably like 80,000, right?
It was a beautiful day, and it was probably
Amazing.
close to a sellout, and it was an incredible pregame atmosphere.
And I remember I was at when I was a kid, me and my dad would just go down and go to the box office and buy GA, and you could sit anywhere in the end zone. And I for some reason, I loved going all the way to the top row and just looking down. And like part of me thinks that I loved like being at the top because the Rose Bowl was so visually appealing when it was 80,000 people a game,
It really does make you feel for people that hopped on board in like the mid 2010s or like kind of went to school during the chip years or just missed that part of UCLA football history, and they kind of have only really known the Tarps.
Right.
Because if I had to pick my all-time favorite memory, it would be, and it's kind of random because I've been to a lot of really, really special games there. It's 2007. It was Deshaun Jackson and Cal. They came in like probably number 12. UCLA had been struggling. Same season as the Notre Dame season. And it was like 83,000, I think. I remember that from
the up.
Can I can I give the full?
No, you were spot on with the ranking.
I know. Well, can I get you the full exact amount? I think I know what it is.
Yeah.
83,944.
Oh, 83,494.
Okay. I'm kind of glad I got that.
Keon would have loved that.
I'm kind of glad I got that wrong. Is that I mean, it was crazy enough that I was just a number switch away.
Yeah.
But I remember that because I've watched the game-winning. It was Altron Werner's pick 6 to seal it. Mm-hmm. And I just remember, I think it was Dan Fouts on the call, and he's like, 83,494, going crazy at the Rose Bowl. And that is 2 games worth of people now in 2025, if that. I mean, what do we get, 34,000, 35,000? It's over double what we get.
Talking about the Nebraska game?
Yeah, or just any game from this year. And reminder, this was just using 2007 as an example. This was not a good team. And, it wasn't like a lot was on the line. The whole win and they come thing, it's like, bro, I know the world is a much different place now than what it was in 2007. But just to kind of paint the picture of how tough it is to see what's, become of our situation at our home stadium is that, we grew up going to games even with 6-win teams, and it was almost 90,000 people on homecoming. And now here we are having to say goodbye on 2 weeks' notice.
After 44,481.
There you go. I think right now a lot of people just kind of want some clarity and like why are we doing this? There has to be a good reason, and I think because of all the hair that's attached to it with the lawsuit and everyone being kind of closed-lipped about it, no one really. It's all kind of speculation and reading reports, and not knowing what's true. I'm curious what you've gathered, if you have any kind of insight as to what was kind of the primary driving factor for UCLA departing, because I've heard a few things, but I'm curious. You go first. I want to hear what you've gathered.
Well, I think the thing that sticks out to me, and I'll credit the Times for a lot of my knowledge and sort of just what I've read on this topic so far. Obviously ticket sales are way down, and a lot of that is due to the fact of the way that the Rose Bowl deal is drawn up. Apparently, we don't receive anything for luxuries, the suites, the press box side. There's not a single dollar that goes back to UCLA for stadium sponsorships. And I guess it's very fractional. That's the term that was used in terms of parking, concessions, and just general like merchandise throughout the stadium. So I think that, and obviously one of the good things as well is we don't, pay like a monthly rent, right? It's a long term.
We don't pay
anything.
We just kick it up.
Exactly. I think personally, I don't know how much you've looked into the whole UC pension system plus B1 Big Ten thing but I think personally that is a big part of this.
As in like the Big Ten is kind of lobbying for this to happen, you mean?
No. So there is a grant right now that is looking to be passed by the UC pension system. And that just is so who happens to be doing this. But basically, they're promising $1.4 billion to all 16 members of the Big Ten. The only two schools to not approve it
SC in Michigan.
are SC in Michigan.
Okay. I'm confused because why does the UC pension system have any interest in this?
I've yet to determine that, but that's just like, yeah, that's just who is putting this money forward.
I hate that being a college football fan in 2025 means that I need to know what the UC pension system is and what their $2.2 billion to the Big Ten means for UCLA's stay at the Rose Bowl and its switch to SoFi Stadium. Like, fuck, this isn't fucking fun anymore.
And it's just business. Like, that's all it is. I feel like NIL changed a lot of this, right?
It's the stem of every single thing that we're dealing with.
Exactly. And I mean, like, probably 3 years ago, we were talking about, UCLA is losing more recruits because, you can't lean on the education. You can't lean on the location of the school. There's so many things that UCLA was a big draw for recruits for.
We lost it all.
Previously, we lost it all. And now we're just continuously, the Rose Bowl isn't, in my opinion, not helping with all of this. And also, in my opinion, I don't think SoFi is going to drastically help. But the reason that I think that all of this is stemming from the whole SoFi situation is, you get an influx of $130 million, and then all of a sudden, you're making exponentially 25% more off of ticket sales. Maybe you're making $25 million a year off of ticket sales.
And that $130 million comes from this pension thing that you're referencing.
Just a direct payout to these schools.
But what does the move to SoFi have to do with us receiving that payment? As long as we play along,
I just think it's the timing.
Oh, I see.
I'm thinking that maybe Jarman or someone knows that this is going to get approved and this is going to go through, and there's an influx of $130 million coming in, and this is the perfect time to break out of that lease and pay that money.
Well, I'll tell you what, with what I've picked up on and how much UCLA is going to be on the hook for with this move, it better hope that $130 million comes in. Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've seen 60 and I've seen 80 in terms of how much it's going to owe for the buyout of just the lease itself. And that's not even scratching the surface of what it might owe in damages pending this litigation situation with the Rose Bowl, which I've seen can be upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars, like $300 million or so.
If that lawsuit happens, UCLA athletics is gone forever.
That's what I'm saying, is that I don't care how many luxury suites it sells, or if it's able to wave a wand and put 75,000 people in SoFi on a regular basis. If UCLA is owing anybody $500 million over this, then we're talking, say goodbye to the Bruins on all fronts, which is
right.
I don't think that's a non-zero chance. I think this could actually be a really serious freaking situation with the Rose Bowl and this whole lawsuit.
I would hope. I would pray to God that, UCLA's lawyers, the UC system, everyone that would be involved with saying, hey, move forward with this, has 100% confidence, not even 99.9% confidence that wouldn't be a possibility.
Yep.
Hopefully the best lawyers saying, hey, reading through everything and everything that the Rose Bowl or the city of Pasadena could come at UCLA with, just 100% certainty that it would not go through.
Being accounted for. Yeah. Maybe this is me being naive because I admittedly know nothing about law or this type of law, I guess. I'm just surprised because I see the luxury suite thing as being a really big, it sounds kind of trivial to people, but I think when you really look at the numbers, missing out on 100% of that type of revenue when you compare it to what other schools get, it's
crazy.
It's enough to make you want to take this type of action. You can't really blame the Rose Bowl because this is an agreement that UCLA signed in 2010 and in 2014. If you're going to point fingers at anybody, it's probably Dan Guerrero.
Right.
Or whoever. I'm sure him and a few others,
I'd assume
the UC regents back, 15 years ago that were responsible for walking us into this lease. Because if you take a look at the lease or just kind of a Spark Notes version of it, that's why I want to be mad at someone. I'd love to, point at Martin Jarman. I don't think Martin Jarman has anything to do with this. And I almost don't fully blame UCLA for taking drastic measure when I kind of get a sense of what this lease is about and how much money UCLA is missing out on with things like the luxury suites thing. But back to my original point, I'm just so surprised that if that's really the deciding factor here, how is that not a number that we can work on through negotiations with the Rose Bowl? Like, why did we resort to going behind their backs? You know, what? Say what you want about the Rose Bowl and the RBOC. I think that their governing committee.
Yep.
Say what you want about them. That's still been our partner for 40 years, and you know that has played a big role in the identity that UCLA has built up as a football program, and a big part of our lore, and you know, in just a part of our identity as a football program. It's that we play our home games at the Rose Bowl. So I don't see why. And again, I understand there's probably way more to this. This is just me speaking freely. Why we had to resort to just jumping straight to, you know, cheating on the Rose Bowl and getting in bed with SoFi versus going, you know, headfirst into straight negotiations with the Rose Bowl, saying, "Look, we can't make this work for us with our current situation, and we want to be your partner. We want to make this last to 2044."
Yeah,
I struggle to even say that number because it's so far away. And that
I know what's scary.
What?
I just got a new credit card. Guess what the expiration date came with?
2044.
No,
I was like
2030. 2030.
Oh shit! I was like, what? That's crazy. 2030. That is crazy. Shit.
Pretty damn close.
Yeah. Fuck. But yeah, that's kind of my biggest question. Assuming that all of that is even, you know, valid and that I'm understanding the situation correctly. Again, SBS Podcast has never claimed to be an insider source, except for the one time that I did break the fact that Deshaun Foster had been fired by a full, 24 hours, but I won't get into it. Outside of that, we've never claimed to be insiders here. This is just fans speculating. So that's my big question. If we're really having to take this type of action for the sake of payment over luxury suites, I'm surprised that wasn't negotiated beforehand. But whatever.
Right. I mean, you could argue that this is a perfect opportunity to, I mean, just if you felt you were, getting cheated out of, certain payment at work, you'd probably go to your employer and, ask maybe for a bonus or ask for, hey, how could we rework this to make this right? And that's exactly what I think UCLA should and probably can still do.
Yeah, I mean, look, is a contract is an agreement? Yes, of course, but circumstances change when there's a lease that's a lifetime, literally. I mean, this was like a 35-year-old lease,
right? Dude,
times change and parties, circumstances change. There has to be a way that there can be some, at least, amendments of any kind.
It happens with athletes all the time. You work deals and, someone goes off and you want to sign them for a little longer, a little bit more money. Happens all the time in sports, especially.
Yeah. So the revenue aspect is obviously, from what, you and I seem like we've heard the same thing. That's kind of at the top of the list. Other reasons that I see floated around often, if not the most, is proximity to campus. I don't buy any of that. Dude, the students, for the most part, they really do kind of I disagree, man. I think they kind of, for basketball, weirdly, yeah. But if you look at recent years, dude, when class is in session.
Yeah, I agree.
They actually are really showing up. Whether they're loud, I mean, whatever. But I think that the students have done a pretty impressive job, given the circumstances that they face, of actually showing up despite a program that they've only known to be bad. So I don't think moving it closer to campus is going to move the needle or not. And it's also not like, outside of students, it's not like UCLA fans all live in Westwood. They're all over LA County.
Right. How were they on Saturday?
The students, pretty good. It was, I mean, compared to where all the other alumni are supposed to sit, they were way more packed than anybody else.
Right.
So I don't buy the proximity thing. I also think if you're trying to get even more students to go, I know it's closer, but it's still a drive, and you're still getting on a bus, and you're still getting in the 405.
It's a 405.
You got to crawl through Inglewood, and then I'm sure getting into the SoFi grounds is just gonna be a fucking mess. So I don't think that really fixes anything, and I've never bought that angle.
I get, the 3 basketball games that we've had so far, you're never going to draw huge numbers, student numbers, probably for West Georgia, Pepperdine, and whoever the hell we played first.
Not in Los Angeles, and not at a school with the academic competitive.
Well, that's the other
UCLA.
thing. That's the other thing. I was talking with my parents last night. I was just letting them know, like, I honestly think a lot of UCLA's student body issues of getting students to attend games just goes to the fact that the people we recruit to come to UCLA to be students are just not people that give a shit about sports.
And
it's just not.
I don't mean this in a problematic way, because I understand the business incentive behind UCLA bringing in more foreign international students, because they bring in way more money through tuition.
Right.
But I mean, when you've got massive percentages of the student body coming in from countries that they don't give a shit about football. They don't know what a Bruin is. They don't give a shit.
No.
They're there to get an education, and they leave. Like, the higher that goes up, it's only simple logic that your student engagement is going to continue to dwindle.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that those kids can't become fans. Of course they can. I just think it's a much tougher ask to sell a program to a student body that's increasingly becoming, more, pulling from other countries that don't even know what American football is. It's just a tougher task for an AD to build up a student following that way. Again,
exactly.
I know people are sensitive and like whatever. Obviously, I don't. It's just I'm just speaking facts now.
Facts. Yeah. And I mean, think about me, you, and Keon. Grew up in Southern California.
Yeah.
We're familiar with college football, familiar with UCLA sports, and familiar with everything. I mean, you get on campus, and I'm dying to go to games. I'm coming back from winter break to go see UCLA play Michigan and Lonzo Ball versus Michigan sit, in the third row. Like those are the fans and student fans that you're going to need. But like you just said, the higher the number goes up on the other side, the lower that number goes down.
Yeah. Sports was my top priority of anything in college, over my social life, over my grades, over my time on the track team. Bruin basketball and Bruin football were always number one for me. And I'm not saying that I do not expect, nor do I want all students to be like that, but just kind of goes to show that that type of student is fleeting these days.
And Pauly was right there. I mean, Pauly was a 5-minute walk from Denev Plaza, or not even.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's like that is a 2-minute walk.
Yeah.
Well, okay. One thing that I see held against SoFi is, proximity is kind of a pro, but a con is that there's no tailgating scene, and that, it's one lot, and that it's virtually no tailgating. Okay. Here's where I'm going to actually kind of play devil's advocate here. Is the tailgating scene at SoFi much different from the Rose Bowl? 100%. Is it okay? The Rose Bowl is the most beautiful and scenic tailgating setting in the country, and I fully believe that. Not even being a homer, I really think that you cannot beat a late fall Saturday afternoon tailgate at the Rose Bowl. It just can't be beat. So you're obviously going to lose the scenery aspect of that, and the grass and so
right.
on.
The dew.
The dew, man. But if you read online or on social media, I got to stop saying online. That makes it seem like I'm like fucking 55 years old. If you go on social media and kind of read the feedback and the people hating on the idea, you'd think that there's no tailgating at SoFi whatsoever. And as a Chargers fan, I can just come here and tell you right now, there is certainly, it's not a very big, it is one lot. They're right in saying that it's one lot. But it is a condensed, intense, and like communal party scene that goes on in the pink lot. And I've seen the tailgate setups that exist on Lot H at Rose Bowl games, or at UCLA games, I should say. I've seen the passion that's still out there from the fans that still make their way out. I have no doubt that there's enough passionate Bruin tailgaters out there that can turn that pink lot into what I see at Charger games. And at Charger games, man, they call it Thunder Alley. It is a complete party. The music is way louder there, by the way, because you're not in a neighborhood. I mean, you can hire like a DJ, your own private DJ, and they can have their whole setup and crank it at your tailgate. And I don't think you're going to be breaking any rules, or at least they don't enforce it over there.
That's crazy.
And dude, because like it's only 2 lots, so the only people that are willing to pay the money to kind of snatch up those like limited spaces, those are the folks that take tailgating very seriously. I mean, I'd be dying to buy one to be one of the, we'll call it 1,000 tailgates max.
I mean, that'd probably even be good for the brand to have like an SBS tailgate inside
Well,
that area.
that's what you see with
And that's community.
Well, what you see at these NFL games is that you have fan groups because it's limited in spaces. So the only people buying up these spaces and putting on these parties are like kind of alliances of fans that put money together to make these big parties.
Yeah.
SBS is something that I would absolutely leverage in that situation.
Right.
So, like, is it ugly? I mean, absolutely. It's a concrete, flat lot. It's very corporate. It's very soulless, and there's absolutely no comparing it to the Rose Bowl. But, you know, I'm not it's bullshit when people are saying that there's just no tailgating at SoFi. It's way different, but it is actually a lot of fun. And, you know, I just kind of wanted to, again, play devil. Okay, well, one thing that I also wanted to mention, though, kind of on the flip side of that, it would not be a place for kids. And that would be a big deal to a lot of people because, you know, the Rose Bowl, you've got kids that can run around on grass and, you know, it's just so sprawling that if you want to get away from a certain party, you can. But in the pink lot at SoFi, man, you are so on top of each other. Like, good luck hiding your kids from binge drinking and all the antics that come along with that because it is literally it is a shoulder-to-shoulder packed frenzy of people getting fucked up for a football game. It's fun for adults. It's not for kids.
I mean, I've never tailgated at SoFi. I've been to one game at SoFi. It was the national championship when it was Georgia TCU in that blowout, but never tailgated. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it sounds like it's a jungle, concrete jungle. But the flip side, and I think so. So they only have one lot that like you can't like sit outside your car in any other lots and like drink beers.
I'm pretty sure it's pretty strictly enforced. Like, could you get away with maybe standing around your car and drinking a beer at like the blue lot? Sure, but if you're gonna put an easy easy up with music, they're shutting it down immediately, telling you got to go buy a spot at the pink lot. Again, it's way different, and you know, in a lot of ways it sucks, but it's one of those things that, you know, I'm not gonna pretend like I don't go to those tailgates at Charger games and think that it's I mean, anytime I bring a first timer with me to Thunder Alley, they're like, "Holy shit, this is the funnest thing ever." I'm not kidding. I highly recommend it to all the listeners. I'm not a Rams guy. I'm sure the Rams have a very similar setup. So just go to an NFL game at SoFi before the season ends and get an idea of what that scene is like, and it might kind of change your mind on just that aspect of the change that's coming.
Yeah, I mean that sounds fun. I feel like we would take advantage of it.
But again, you and I are in our late 20s though, and there's older fans that like to lay out or just kind of chill out, and there's people with kids that like it would not work for them.
And that's the thing about the Rose Bowl is you can be on hole 30 on the Nay course, and you can still pop up a chair outside. You can have 3 chairs, have a kid throwing a football in the alley, and not have a worry in the world. So that's complete opposite. Sounds like complete opposite.
Very much so. Ooh, one thing I did want to talk about. Hold on, I kind of got lost in my notes. Oh, okay. So on the topic of SoFi, before we move on, I think we want to talk about a little bit about the Nebraska game. Let's say the SoFi thing ends up, happening. What I'm going to be very interested to see is how long this lease is going to be for, because I would be very encouraged if I see it of like, okay, I know nothing about fucking stadium leases, other than the one that UCLA is coming out of was multiple decades long. If this lease could be like 10 years max, I'd be kind of holding out hope that UCLA is holding out hope of at some point making this on-campus stadium thing actually happen. Just with this D-line metro station being built on the corner of Veteran and Wilshire, man, I just think that the landscape and the situation has changed from recent years where, the narrative has just always been, this is a 100% impossibility. It's not even worth the discussion.
Well, and I think the reason why it can now sort of become a discussion is this whole area of West LA, not just Westwood and Bel Air and Beverly Hills. It's being prepped for the Olympics. Like it is being prepped for max capacity. It's kind of and I think that helps you. I mean, you look at the timeline. What's the Olympics? 2028. So if you have a 5 to 10 year lease, like you said, that gives us plenty of time to put plans together, renderings together, get the right group that's going to build this thing, and basically get the stamp of approval while we're playing down the street at SoFi. And then maybe in 10 years after the Olympics, and a couple years later, there's a stadium on campus with enough parking, maybe in Westwood. Maybe you add some parking on campus, and then you have a lot of folks that potentially could take the metro. You're going to need public transportation.
And I think when people hear on campus, they immediately think Drake Stadium. That's not where my head is at. When I say on campus stadium, I mean like a stadium in Westwood. And I won't get into the details of where I think that would be, but I would just pump the brakes on the idea that UCLA themselves have not continued to look for ways to make this happen in recent years. Take my word with a grain of salt, but I'll leave it at this. I'm not in the camp that this is a 0% dead on arrival type idea. I think when people bring up the idea of Drake Stadium being converted into a football stadium, yeah, I think that's stupid and a waste of time, because dude, that is literally on the front doorstep of the Beller houses that have traditionally made this impossible. Like, dude, I remember during track practices, I would doze off and just look at the houses across the street from Sunset and be like, oh, that's nice, because they're literally right there.
Right there.
Yeah. So I think, and if the only way to even, if you were to consider making Drake a possibility, you'd have to have these temporary bleachers that I see. I see that idea a lot online on social media. You'd have to have a max capacity of 25,000 to make that work. And if that's a standard we're holding ourselves to, below Northwestern, then I don't even want to be a fan anymore. If we're thinking 20 to 25,000 people.
Did you see Northwestern Stadium they're building?
It's very,
that
very cool.
That shit is badass.
It's very cool.
And I mean, that's what, 40,000? But it looks like the way that it's built, looks like it's 80,000.
It's 35,000. Yeah, and it looks great. I just think it would be, especially because UCLA 10 years ago saw that it was able to see revenue consistently of 75,000 people coming to the stadium. I think that would be a tough pill for the school to swallow, that, okay, well, we're now going to cap the tickets that we can sell at 35 to 40,000, when, yeah, right now that might seem exactly what we need. But I would, if I were calling the shots here, I'd be like, well, what if the team gets good again and we have the potential to double that, and now we're stuck with the stadium that we're having to finance already, and we're missing out on potentially double the ticket revenue. So the Drake Stadium idea will never happen.
You said you weren't going to say, were you wiping out the VA? Where's that thing going?
No, I think directly on top of the metro station on the corner of Wilshire and Veteran. Drive past it, look at it. That's the place where you build it.
On the corner of Wilshire and Veteran, across from Wasserman?
No. It's across the street from the cemetery.
Gotcha. Oh, where that weird parking lot is, and
it's just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else where you would go unless you had to buy land from the VA. Okay. Well, anyways, let's talk about this UCLA-Nebraska game really briefly, and then I want to get into our closer of the night, which is the upcoming matchup this Friday versus Arizona. Before we get into the details of the game itself, I just want to discuss, and it's been talked to death already, but I'm just going to repeat it, that Nico is an absolute warrior, and that all the talk about him being some diva is complete nonsense, because he's one of the toughest quarterbacks that I've ever seen play for UCLA, because you are playing in a season that's it's almost completely lost at this point. You're coming off a 50-point loss to Indiana. You started 0-4. All of your coaching staff has been fired. The stadium is half empty, and yet here he is. I think the guy has a shot at making the NFL one day with his build and his profile and his potential. Here he is, just completely throwing his body at Nebraska defenders, trucking fools, trying to get first downs. Guy's an absolute warrior, and I am a Nico guy. If he comes back next year or not, I'm a Nico guy. And Tennessee fans are full of shit. They're all bitter, and everything I heard about that guy was completely wrong. I'm a huge Nico guy.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. No, what's the rule? No meat riding. No more meat riding.
No meat riding.
You asked in the notes, where did this one go wrong? I mean, I guess while we're on the topic of Nico and passing, I don't know what it is, dude, but our receivers the last 3 games have just not been getting open.
Yeah.
Like Quasi's numbers have really fallen off. TMA, I mean, he had that game against Maryland, was an absolute stud, and then he's completely fallen off a cliff since that game. But, I mean, I think it's almost kind of like moot to talk about that aspect of the game when Emmett Johnson ran for, like 250 yards, completely just thrashed the UCLA defense. Emmett Johnson is really, really good, but you know who's really, really bad? Maryland's offense.
Oh, my God.
Because how did they get shut down by this UCLA defense? I mean, watching that Maryland game, I was like, dude, this Bruin defense, they've turned the corner, and they're now an incredible unit. And they now haven't gotten a sack in 3 games. They have 6 sacks on the season, which is the worst. That is the worst in college football, by the way.
Or Michigan State at home, put up 13.
Yeah, I mean, holy cow. I mean, dude, just looking at those defensive numbers, 6 sacks in the season, 0 in 3 games, the ineptitude that you must have to have these kind of results in this type of football product as a school like UCLA and the resources that you have to be dead last and not be able to get better talent than what they have on that defensive front and that front 7, it's just mind-bending to me. And I don't see how heads don't roll from something like this. Just that defensive stat alone, if I was calling shots, I'd be like, someone's getting fired over this.
Right.
And it's probably going to be the athletic director for blah, 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 blah. But it's just a fucking joke, and I needed to vent for a little bit.
No, I mean, no sacks. I mean, you probably a handful of pressures. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many times I feel like I've watched a quarterback, drop back and pass against UCLA this season and literally could just stand there and probably grill something in the time that he has.
If UCLA registers a sack against Ohio State, that individual's stat would be the biggest upset of the year in college football. That stat alone, if they get a sack against Ohio State. Because I want to say they might lead the country, which is so funny. We have the least sacks in the country, and I want to say Ohio State might be number 1 in sacks allowed.
Oh, wow.
And we're on the road.
It's a sack if, like, let's say we force a quarterback out of bounds and he steps out.
Ooh, that's a good question. If he goes...
Steps out before the line of scrimmage.
I don't think that's
I think that's a sack. No? Is this a loss of
I think that's a tackle for loss.
Okay.
I think.
But a sack is you have to take him down in play.
I think, well, he's a passer. That's an interesting I'd like for someone to fact check me on that.
I wonder if I could ChatGPT that. Keep going. I'll find that out.
But yeah, 4:30 kickoff on NBC at the Horseshoe. I mean, people love putting us in prime time when we're about to get our absolute ass whooped.
Big noon.
It's a 31.5 point spread at the moment with a 1.7% chance for UCLA.
I thought that was high.
To win the game. 1.7?
I thought that was high.
I mean, Kyle, how much lower can you go? You want us? I mean, we're talking sub 1%.
2%.
I bet you 0.3% of that was kind of just credit for what we did in the past versus Penn State. It's like, well, the team's got some magic to it.
Yeah.
Let's turn a realistic 1.3 to 1.7. Yeah, I mean, I'll be watching. It'll be cool to see us just play in that stadium, I guess. But I believe this game will be over in the first quarter, similar to how the game was over in the first quarter versus Indiana. I just want to get this one out of the way and have our last home game at Washington or at the Rose Bowl against Washington and see what comes of this whole Jed Fish situation.
Did you see the like, newest odds? Oh no, the newest odds to who would be UCLA's new head coach? They just came out like
what
sports books.
Tommy Rees.
Yep. Who else? Nick Saban was on there like 40 to 1.
I read the names and I immediately moved on and kept scrolling. Did you see Jed Fish's press conference? Where
I did not.
He was asked about the mentionings of him and these lists for head coaching vacancies, and he gave kind of a bullshit talk around the question, fake passionate response about how much he loves being in Washington without saying vividly, I will not be the next head coach at UCLA. I will 100% be returning to Washington next year. You've seen it 1,000 times. The guy, he'll say a bunch of shit, act all offended, but he doesn't actually answer the question and shoot it down. So,
And I'm sure he's had a press conference like that in the past, just with the amount of times he's.
yeah, he for sure had those types of questions asked at Arizona. I'd be curious to dig up those responses. I bet it'd be pretty similar to what he just said the other day at Washington.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't think we really need to react much to Nebraska. In the football world, there's just too much going on, so we'll let that die. And let's talk some Bruin hoops, and we'll close with that because Friday night we've got quite the matchup ahead of us. And I had this one circled going into the season. As you know, I mean, anyone that went to that Gonzaga game at Intuit last year, I mean, you were there, I was there. Holy cow, what a good time. Insanely good turnout by UCLA fans. It was like, I would wager like 9,000 UCLA fans at that Gonzaga game last year. It was incredible. But now, the way these first 3 games have gone, Kyle, and the way Arizona is looking, what are your thoughts? You're the ball knower.
It's scary. Part of me, it's so hard to tell early on. Maybe Pepperdine wins the WCC, and they were actually pretty decent. Maybe West Georgia. We ended up winning by 25. It was sort of. You were there. It was odd for the first, Eastern Washington, we lose by 6, or win by 6, right? But don't lose by 6. We would have been fucked. But the weird thing is I'm a follower of Ken Palm, and we dropped 20 spots. We've gone from 10 to 30 in Ken Palm rankings. I think Arizona's up to like 4 right now. The Arizona team's real. I think this goes back to Tommy Lloyd's done a hell of a job of recruiting. He's getting the guys that I think we want as the 5 stars and 4 stars and not really having to dip his toes too far into the portal. But then again, when we went to Arizona last year, I thought they were a much better team than us. And, we dug and clawed. And I think Cronin, put together a game plan last year against him to just slow the pace down, slow everything down, and make it a very much more possession-like game. I think that's going to be harder to do this year with Donovan Dent as well playing. Donovan Dent's going to play exactly into the way that Arizona wants to play, and it's going to be up and down the floor. And I just think they got athletes. So
they have a athlete that is looking to be a lottery pick. Is he 18 years old?
17 or 18, but yeah,
he might be 17 years old. Holy shit,
he could be.
Koa Pete. Yeah, there's I flip flop depending on the time of year who I hate more, Arizona basketball or USC football. The real answer is USC football, but I get so lost in my disgust and hatred for Arizona basketball that it eclipses, at least for that time being, how much I despise the Trojans. So will I be at Intuit Dome? Of course I will be. Especially with how I know they're going to be bringing folks. I'm really curious what... I
was thinking about that earlier today.
What's it going to be?
I would really hope that we are 75% of that crowd.
I'm hoping that we're 50%, Kyle.
No, there's no way.
Dude, when we used to do the Pac-10...
Pac-12, yeah.
Or Pac-10 at Staples Center, I want to say it was still like...
Oh, you're talking Staple. You're talking way back. You're talking
Pacific Life, baby. The power
Pacific 10.
The power to help you succeed.
The whale.
Yeah. Maybe that's me being really negative. I
just think with the showing last year, the marquee matchup that we had against Gonzaga.
But here's the thing: is that we had already had wins at Arizona. We had played, I think, North Carolina close.
This is much earlier.
Much earlier, and the sample size is Arizona looking like a world beater in UCLA, edging out left ass cheek state. So either way, if you're listening to this and you live in LA, or even if you don't live in LA, book a last minute flight, get your ass to the Intuit Dome, because that's a terrible look. Even if it's 50%, that's a horrendous look. You got to
great arena to go to too if you haven't been to it.
It's a blast. It is so worth going, and have some pride. Those are the games that you have to show up for, are nearby neutral sites against your rival.
100%.
Defend that shit.
And I can't believe I'm going to be missing it. I'm being in New York, so if anyone knows a good New York City place to watch some Bruin hoops. I'm sort of going to try and go on a mission to find something like you did in Chicago. I don't know if I'm going to be successful, but it'd be pretty sweet if I did.
If you find something even half as cool as that place I found in Chicago, I will be very impressed. And that reminds me, I still need to reach out to the owner of that bar and get him on this show, because that'd be very, very cool. Also, if anyone has any ideas or recommendations for guests and you've made it this far in the episode, if you're on Spotify or on YouTube, leave a comment. I've actually never considered that. Taking requests for guests and we can do the outreach ourselves. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting. I think I saw you tweeting back and forth with someone today about like the old Seppies, the Roccos, the Barneys, and the fact that UCLA needs more of a UCLA themed bar. I believe was sort of the topic.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I don't want to start crying on air, so I'm not going to talk about Seppies. But what I will ask you is what'd you think about my Broxton Avenue Bruin Zone idea?
I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Should I read the tweet just so for those that don't have me on Twitter, can know what my idea is? Here's my idea, guys. Let me pull up my phone.
Were you down on dinner? Were you at the brewery?
No, I walked to Chipotle. I was riding solo last night at the Bruin game. It was actually very nice. Wow, I was tweeting the tits off my phone last night. I got to scroll. Okay, I'm in Westwood right now before the basketball game, walking down Broxton Avenue, which is now blocked from traffic and is pedestrian only. If I had any say whatsoever in the school/AD, I'd make it my life's mission to turn this place into the official pregame gathering zone for Bruin basketball fans. You've got Barney's on one end, Broxton Brewery on the other. Turn it into a beer garden with a DJ or some live music 2 hours before tip-off. Give it a cool name. Bruin Boulevard, Bruin Fest, the Bruin Zone. Market the shit out of it. Would this not be a major boost for UCLA fan experience, the local economy, and even attendance? Just my thoughts.
I love it. Could you imagine, not to get ahead of ourselves, but could you imagine that with an on-campus stadium?
Yeah. You know what's the worst part about being this is actually the worst part about being a UCLA fan, is thinking what could be, with our current setup. You're like, what if? Because the pieces are there for like the coolest sports school in the country, bar none. Yeah, but everything needs to be a no. Everything's off limits. Even Seppies was off fucking limits.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a UCLA fan and you've recently joined, I hope you're ready for a lifetime of heartbreak, because anything that's cool can't happen. And anything that is currently cool that we do have will probably be taken away. Not to close on that. That was really depressing.
Let's close on it.
This is a depressing episode.
It has been.
This is a group therapy session. This is me commiserating.
We're talking about leaving the Rose Bowl in 3 weeks. We're talking about losing to Nebraska, and we're talking about getting our ass kicked against Ohio State and potentially Arizona.
Dude,
that's what we've covered so far.
Can you believe the football season that what the hell has just happened in the last 3 months? We've seen an 0-4 start.
Crazy.
Real discussions of this being the worst team in history. Our coach getting fired, our DC stepping down, our OC stepping down, a miraculous win against Penn State in a 3-game miracle run, banners flying and trucks driving around to get Martin Jarman to go away. He never did. And now we're leaving the Rose Bowl.
That's just comical. I can't do anything but laugh.
No, this is 30 for 30 type stuff.
Yeah.
This football season. If you would have told me that one of these things would have happened before the season started, I'd be like, oh, shit. But they've all happened. Yeah. If you would have told me Deshaun got fired 8 games into the season, I would have been like, whoa, holy fuck. That was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. We were predicting to be 8-4 and potentially 4-0 going into Penn State.
Kyle, I'm a businessman. I got to keep my fans engaged, whether I believe it or not. Well, yeah. Whatever, man. That's all we got, Kyle, unless you've got anything else, brother.
Nothing for me.
All right, guys. Well, we know these are tough times to be a UCLA fan, but that's why we like doing this, because we got to stick together and be there for one another as one big Bruin family. So keep tuning in and keep interacting with us on Twitter and Instagram. You guys are hilarious. You're great. And you got to have a sense of humor about it. So we'll be back next week to recap this Ohio
Hopefully
State game,
win.
but hopefully an Arizona win. And
that would do a lot to my morale right now.
Oh yeah, we need it, and we'll see how that goes. But until then, be well and hang in there. Go Bruins.